This is House Talk with Wally and Cindy Kerr. Today's real estate podcast is presented by Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage and Best Protect Roofing and Construction. You can catch all of the previous shows and podcasts by visiting the library of topics at wallytalkshouses.com. Let's join Wally and Cindy for this week's podcast.
Hey, welcome everyone to House Talk today. Cindy, how's your day been?
It's been just great. I'm really enjoying the weather.
Hey, let's talk about something that we didn't even talk about up front, and that is you're riding in a horse show coming up. We're doing this podcast today, which is November 12th. Cindy, you're riding Friday or Saturday this week?
I'm riding Saturday, but I'm practicing all week, and I'm going to practice in the venue on Friday. I won't tell you where it is because I'm not sure how well I'll do. It's a difficult venue, but I'll tell you next week how well I did.
So what day do you ride?
Saturday.
And what are you going to do in the competition?
I'm going to ride Western Dressage Level 3, which is a very difficult test for my horse. She has to do a 10-meter canter circle, which is like a gallop, and 10 meters is only 33 feet wide. So that's a very tight circle.
I don't even want to be on a horse, so whatever she's doing is much more technical than my abilities. I'd rather be sitting at a Thunder game, and I'm just so proud to say that SGA played last night on TV and set his career high.
What did you say it was? 45 points?
45 points. He had 44 before. Remember, SGA has been a pro now for about 6 years, I believe.
And he earns how much?
It's big money. It's like $35 million per year.
I guess when you get 45 points a game, you're earning your money.
But it wasn't just him. It was a team effort, and we won after the injury, the really horrible injury with Chet Holmgren, who fell on his hip a few nights ago, and he's fractured his pelvic bone and will be out 8 to 10 weeks. But I've got Cindy going to the games now, and I caught her clapping the other night.
I'm enjoying it. Those guys are just amazing athletes. I never realized how difficult that game is in terms of physicality. Those guys are huge, and when you sit down close to them, they're like trees.
So kudos to our friend Chris, who's had tickets for about 10 years, and he cut us into his ticket pool.
Yeah.
Now we're going and sitting on the floor at the games. The action is close, isn't
Yes, it is.
Cindy, let's talk about real quickly our toy drive, which started this week, and it goes through the day before Thanksgiving, which will be November 27th. And we are benefiting two organizations. One is the Center for Children and Families, which is a Norman organization that helps families where abuse is prevalent. And it could be battered women or it could be children that are abused. So the Center for Children and Families is a United Way organization. They do wonderful work. We're going to benefit them. And then also another organization that's been pretty dear to our heart, the Children's Health Foundation.
And that's from OU, and that benefits kids all over Oklahoma. And you know,
and other states too.
Really?
They don't actually, and that's something cool I learned recently, is they will never refuse a child from any other state. And what I love about formerly the Children's Hospital Foundation, now it's called Children's Health Foundation. And what I love about them is they will take care of the family. The family wants to be here while the child is being treated for lymphoma or
heart defects
or brain stuff. I mean, it's just anything. They don't turn down a child, even if they're from out of state. They house the family, they feed the family, they help take care of the family. And we've been helping the Children's Hospital or Children's Health Foundation for many, many years. And so we know some of these kids might go without toys, and the families may be broke. There is abuse for families, and there's no way that a woman trying to take care of her kids could go in and buy Christmas gifts. So we've got 2 drop-off points. We'd like you to bring an unwrapped gift. And Cindy, tell them where they can drop those off.
Okay, well, one of them is here at our Kerr Team Real Estate office, which is at 2500 McGee Drive. We're on the corner of McGee and Highway 9, just 1 mile east of Atwoods.
And these are our headquarters, by the way. We have 2 offices, but this is our main office with our admins. So we also have an Oklahoma City location where toys can be dropped off. And where is that?
That is at First Rate Title, and that's a title company that we use on the corner of 13th and Broadway, and it's just north of Automobile Alley.
Take an unwrapped toy, new condition, drop that off. You'll be a part of our toy drive. Let's make Christmas very special for people who really need our help. We're really looking forward to contributing this year. I know a lot of places do toy toy drives, but getting the message out, we don't really care where you give as long as you give a toy.
That's right.
And we can make sure that enough donations are given. So
That's right.
It's really important. Okay, hey, Cindy, let's talk a little bit about an article that I saw on Realtor.com. I thought it was really good and might apply to some of our listeners. It's 7 mistakes people make when handling a deceased family member's estate. So we need to run through these pretty quickly.
And I can speak to this because I inherited my aunt's house and when she passed away. So a lot of this really is...
It hits home, doesn't it?
It hits home. And the first one was going through possessions piece by piece. I will say that my aunt was a very neat and orderly person, my aunt and uncle both, and their house was in just great condition. But it is easy to get mired in a lot of details and a lot of little things and wondering what they're worth. So how do you sort through that pretty quickly? In my case, my aunt's house was in California and I live here in Oklahoma. So I had to make a trip out there every time to try to sort through all this. And the article recommended 4 boxes, and label 1 is personal correspondence, 1 with photographs, 1 with medical papers, and 1 with legal documents. And if you'll just start there, then that gives you a real good leg up on how to get through everything.
Yeah, the article just recommended getting these 4 boxes, label them, scan through the home and go through every room looking for important papers and things that might have been taken by maybe an older grandparent. I know my mother scatters mail across her formal dining room, in her bedroom, on her bedstand, and then also on the kitchen counters.
Really interesting point. I don't know if you remember that house we sold years ago, Wally in Hall Park, but the person had passed away and their kids were going through the house, and the person who had passed away had hid cash in magazines all through the house.
I kind of do remember that.
And they kind of felt like that was a way they could defend against burglars. But as these poor kids were going through every magazine, they were finding $100 bills.
Wow.
So it was a nightmare to try to get through all that.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. And we're going to take several little headings here in the article, and let's skim this down. This article talked about undervaluing items that you maybe aren't familiar with, overvaluing items that you've got an intrinsic value to in your mind, and then overlooking the attic, overlooking storage areas, letting your friends come in and assess how much things are worth. Are they really experts, right? And then problems if you're selling to dealers rather than collectors. And I think you and I just skimmed this down to call a couple of different estate sale companies, but here's the trick. Call them, and once they arrive, just say, we know we have some valuable items here, but we would like you to identify them for us as you walk through, because we want to make sure that whoever we've got out is going to be very honest, see the things that are worth the most value, and tell us what those are while you are here. Because otherwise, it's possible you could call someone to do an estate sale. They could see something that was worth $20,000, not say a thing about it, have one of their friends show up and buy it for $50, and then you could see it on eBay one day.
I know.
Or see it on an auction. So we recommend at least 2 different estate sale companies and probably 3 to look at the home, right?
That's really good advice. I, in dealing with my aunt's house, only used 1 estate sale company, and luckily they seem to be very honest. But I wish I had kind of heeded that advice then. I would say that really took a lot of pressure off me, because it is hard to go through a house where someone has lived 75 years and collected everything in the world, even though my aunt was very neat, without some help. And that is just invaluable as to have an estate sale.
I agree. And the last one we're going to talk about just real quick is not dealing with debts. So according to the Federal Trade Commission, U.S. family members of a deceased person are not responsible for paying the deceased's debts. That's in most states, so check with an attorney, like an estate attorney. Now let's be super clear here. If there's a lien, like a mortgage against a home or a lien against a car, if you don't make those payments, it's going to be repossessed. So we're just talking about debts as opposed to liens or mortgages. Be very careful and consult an estate attorney to help you out with this.
And in my case, my aunt did have a trust set up. She was a very responsible person, and she had an estate attorney who had worked through all that.
Yeah, it's great. They're worth the money. You know, it may be expensive to hire an attorney, but think about what happens if you don't. You need to understand disposition of the property and then anything about debts. Mm-hmm. And be sure and call Kerr team. I have looked at hundreds and hundreds of homes over the years where a classmate will call me from school and say, lost my parents, I lost my surviving parent. Wally, come over. We'd like to know what the home is worth. We need to see values. We also need you to write, because we're going to keep the property. We want you to evaluate what the basis is right now, because my brother and sister and I have decided to keep the home for a couple of years and maybe rent it out. So call us here at Kerr Team at 330-3000, and we'll be glad to help with that.
You know, Wally, just changing gears a little, what are the rates doing right now? The election's over. I know everybody was kind of waiting for the election. Tell us about rates.
Well, here's the most shocking thing that I've seen come out, and that is you've probably heard that the NASDAQ and the Dow and the S&P have rallied to record highs.
Yes.
So now there's a belief that the economy is going to be very good moving forward, at least short term.
Right.
Well, that has to do with what Jerome Powell and the Fed decides to do. So they're already saying maybe we'll make a rate reduction during the month of December. I checked with Chris Doak this afternoon before we recorded this podcast, and Chris said that rates are generally where they were a week ago and 2 weeks ago. The best borrowers probably can get a rate on an FHA VA around 6 3/4, and conventional rates are more like 7 to 7.5, depending on credit score, how long you've been on your job, how much money you make, what your debt to income ratio is. That 6 3/4 to 7.5 is about what we saw and talked about during our last show. And it doesn't look like rates are going to change much over the next 30 to 60 days. So I would say, boy, if you found a home that you liked today, there are some options available to you, including, there's a whole lot of homes on the market right now.
Yeah, tell us about inventory. That's the other question I had.
I call it signs in yards. If you drive around the metro, there's a sign in the yard. Maybe the home's available. Maybe it's got a contract on it. 1 out of 4 signs that you will see on average is under contract, and the other 3 homes are for sale. What I'm telling you is, for all the signs in the yards, all around the metro area, 1 in 4 homes are under contract. So there's a lot for sale, and there's a lot of sellers who are willing to do a buy down today. They want their homes sold. We're at a slower time of year. It's clear that rates are not continuing to come down like we thought they would. So a lot of these sellers, including builders, are really motivated. And getting what's called a 2-1 buy down done is pretty easy to get negotiated today.
And if a buyer doesn't understand that, I would think they could call you, Wally, and you would help them through the process, negotiating, getting that written into the contract.
Yeah, we just like what Chris said. By the way, Chris Doak, Gateway Mortgage. Chris does such an amazing job with communication, and his team of professionals that service loans. They can get deals done sometimes in 15 days and get closed if it needs to be done.
Give them his phone number so they'll have that too.
Chris Doak and his team, and they also can do pre-approval letters on the weekends, 405-253-2276. And so, Cindy, when Chris said that rates were around 7, that means with a 2-1 buy down, the first year of your mortgage payment would be based on a rate of 5%, and that would be for 12 payments. In year 2, it would go to 6% for 12 payments, and then finally level out at 7%. But you can refinance at any time. So if anybody believes rates are going to go back down to 3 or 4 or 4.5% again, you can always refinance. But there are a lot of motivated sellers out there and some really good buys in the marketplace. If you know someone thinking about buying a home, we would love to help them. Please have them give us a call. We will help them negotiate for a great home at a great price. And if you know of someone needing to sell, their home didn't sell, they're thinking about selling, we've got cash offers available if the home is not already on the market. We can always look at that option. Or if your home hasn't sold and you're worried that it's not going to sell, or you're friend had a home on the market and didn't sell, call us about our guaranteed home sale program, right?
That's right. We've been running that program for how many years, Wally?
We started in 2007, and the reason we can still do that program today for home sellers is because we've helped them make the right decisions and given them an option.
That's right.
Our guaranteed home sale program, your home sold guaranteed, or we'll buy your home at a price we agree to up front. That's just an option that's available. We are regular listing and selling realtors with a lot of options for home buyers and sellers. Hey, that's it on House Talk this week. We'll be back next week. Hope you have a great week, and thanks for listening in.
This has been House Talk with Wally and Cindy Kerr, presented each week by Best Protect Roofing and Construction and by Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. Join us weekly to learn more about buying, selling, owning, and investing. And visit Wally Talks Houses to find all available podcasts and shows.